So, over the past few months, we have covered and ranked all of the weapons in both the attack and range class. And today, we'll be continuing the series, this time ranking every single defense class weapon from worst to best. And since this class has even more weapons than the range and attack class, we should not waste any more time and get right into it. Starting off the list, at the very bottom, we have Twin Sword Hiramekare Release. This is an okay-ish weapon overall, but it has one glaring issue: the tracking. It's just really bad. And not just in one specific situation either, it's bad across the board. Whether you're trying to start a combo or continue one, the tracking just doesn't hold up. Outside of that, the weapon does have some decent combos. You've got options that knock the enemy up and let you continue to pressure, and both the light attack combo and the light to heavy combo are just fine. But unfortunately, none of that is enough to make up for how poor the tracking is. That alone keeps it at the bottom for me. Moving down the list, we have the Longsword. This one is actually a bit tricky to rank because for a base game weapon, it does have some genuinely solid combos. You get good stuns, knockups, and even some cancel potential if you know how to use it. That being said, I have to mention what might be the worst charge attack in the entire game. I'm not even exaggerating, it misses almost every single time the enemy is moving even slightly away from you. It honestly felt so frustrating to use. Every single time I tried to close the gap, my character would swing way too early, like 2 meters away from the enemy. So it just feels super off. Overall, the weapon feels very clunky and heavy, which I guess makes sense for a defense weapon, but it's still frustrating to deal with. That being said, once you actually do connect, the tracking is decent, and the weapon has a lot of wide sweeping hits with large hitboxes which make it easier to stay on the opponent. So yeah, if it wasn't for that charge attack, which I simply cannot bear to use, this would be a nice weapon, but oh well. Continuing on, we have the Blast Sword. This is basically the Longsword but with one key difference. The strong attack now ends with an explosion. Everything else is pretty much the same. You're dealing with the same strengths and the same issues. But the added explosion is at least something extra. It gives the weapon a bit more value, and because of that I do place it slightly higher than the Longsword. Next up, we have the Giant Fan. Everything about it is just solid. Nothing amazing, but nothing terrible either. The main reason I rank it higher is that it offers a bit more combo variety. The light attack combo knocks the enemy back both on the ground and in the air, whilst the light to heavy combo launches them upward, giving you some follow-up potential. The tracking isn't perfect though. You can still run into the same issues as with the Longsword, but for whatever reason it happens much less often here. The strong attack itself isn't anything special, but overall the weapon just feels a little bit more reliable than the previous ones, and that's why I rank it slightly higher. Continuing down the list, we have Tamari's Fan. This is essentially just the Giant Fan but with a different strong attack. Instead of the standard one, you now get a wind projectile on both the ground and in the air. That said, the projectile itself isn't anything amazing though. It has surprisingly short range for something that's supposed to be a projectile, and the damage isn't anything special either. That said, I do think it's still slightly better than the default Fan's strong attack, so it's at least an upgrade in that sense. Outside of that, the weapon is pretty much unchanged. Next up, we have the Samehada. In a way, this feels like the opposite of the Longsword. It doesn't have as many strong combo options, aside from the light to heavy string that knocks the enemy up, and it probably doesn't deal as much damage either. But what it does have is very consistent tracking. The weapon doesn't really excel at anything or give you a massive advantage, but it's reliable, and that alone makes it pretty usable. So yeah, nothing special but a solid and dependable weapon. Hey, if you're enjoying the video so far, make sure to like and subscribe, as it not only greatly helps this channel, but also you might not want to miss out on future videos where we'll, for example, rank every single healer weapon or every ninja tool. So if that sounds fun, then just hit those 2 buttons and you're good to go. Thanks a lot, and now back to the list. Moving on, we have the Scythe. I have very similar feelings to this weapon as I do about Samehada. It's a solid weapon, but there's nothing particularly that stands out about it that gives you a big advantage in fights. The main reason I placed it higher is because I find the heavy attack more interesting. It's a spinning attack, and like most defense heavy attacks, it gives you super armor, which can be really useful. That said, the tracking on it isn't amazing, so overall it is a good weapon, just nothing especially noteworthy. Continuing on, we have the scientific ninja tool Swirling Scythe. This is basically a slightly altered version of the standard scythe. All of the combos remain the same, the only real difference is the strong attack. On the ground you get a spinning attack, and in the air you perform 2 overhead slashes. If these attacks had just a bit more range, they would actually be really strong. But as it stands, they're just okay. The grounded version can be useful in crowded fights thanks to the super armor though. Aside from that, it's essentially the same weapon as the regular scythe. Next up, we have the scientific ninja tool Rhapsody. This one feels like a slightly worse version of the double moon sword, which we'll get to shortly. It has a nice flow, doesn't feel heavy to use, and the tracking is actually pretty good. The issue is the strong attack. It's noticeably worse than what you get with a double moon sword. And because of that, it's hard to justify picking this weapon when there's another one that does almost the same thing but just better. That said, if you don't have either of the moon swords, this is a perfectly decent option. Continuing down the list, we have the sword set whirlwind weapon. It's honestly a bit unfortunate that I have to place this weapon this low because it feels like it could have been something really good. Instead though, everything about it ends up being pretty underwhelming. The strong attack drops a giant toad on the enemy, but it lands directly in front of you and takes a long time to activate, and the hitbox itself isn't even that big. It can work in something like base battle, but in more dynamic modes, it's just very hard to land consistently. The combos also aren't anything super special either. Most of them hard knock the enemy, and aside from the ground light to heavy string, they're not particularly interesting. On top of that, the tracking is pretty mediocre. So yeah, a weapon with a lot of potential, but in practice just quite disappointing. Next up, we have Kagamasa's sword. This is what I describe as a perfectly okay weapon. It doesn't really do anything crazy, but it also doesn't have any major flaws. It has clean, smooth looking combos that tend to push the enemy back a lot, which can be really useful in modes like base battle. Also, the tracking is fairly solid on it. That said, for an SS weapon, it just doesn't bring anything special to the table. It's a solid pick, but not something that's going to give you a huge advantage over other options. Continuing on, we have Daruri's sword. It honestly pains me to rank this weapon this low because visually it's easily one of the coolest weapons in the game, but it has one major issue that really holds it back. A lot of the time, and I mean a lot, you simply can't finish your standard ground combos. Somewhere in the middle of the chain, one of the attacks will hard knock the enemy away and drop them to the ground, completely stopping your combo. The light attack string is a perfect example. It's long and looks amazing, but most of the time you won't be able to finish it because something in the sequence interrupts the flow. It's honestly kind of baffling how the devs managed to make it this way because otherwise the weapon could have been easily one of the best in the class. The strong attack is interesting. You fire out a black lightning beast with really good range, but unfortunately it has no tracking, so it's just okay. In the air though, the weapon actually feels much better since the combos are shorter and deal solid damage. So yeah, this could have been a top tier weapon, but because of that one major flaw, it falls way lower than it really should have. Next up, we have Iwabe's Iron Staff. This weapon lets you incorporate earth style into your attacks, transforming the staff into things like a hammer and a long spear. I think this weapon is just okay overall. It has some really cool looking combo, and using earth style in your attacks is definitely fun, but it doesn't really do anything particularly impactful. Both versions of the strong attack are decent, but no real standouts. There isn't a ton of combo variety, and the tracking is a bit inconsistent as well. So while the concept is pretty cool, the execution just isn't strong enough for me to rank it any higher. Continuing on, we have the Hacksaw. This is very much a middle of the road type of weapon. It has some really nice qualities, but also some clear issues. The biggest strength is definitely the long sweeping strikes. These make it really easy to catch enemies, even the ones you're not directly targeting. It also has some really nice combo routes, especially in the air. On the downside though, the tracking can be pretty poor, both when trying to start a combo and when trying to stay on the opponent. The weapon also has a tendency to push the enemies away mid-combo, which can break your flow. So overall, an interesting weapon with some strong points, but also a few frustrating flaws. Next up, we have Yagura's Club. This weapon lets you use Yagura's unique coral-based fighting style, and visually it's definitely one of the more fun weapons to use. The grounded heavy attack is probably the standout here. It has great reach, and with the added super armor it can be very effective in crowded fights. That said, the tracking on it isn't the most reliable. It's not terrible, but it's also not something you can fully depend on. On top of that, the combo variety feels a bit limited. A lot of the light to heavy strings feel very similar to the standard light combos or just simple extensions of them. So yeah, a really fun weapon visually, but slightly lacking in consistency and depth. Moving down the list, we have Double Moon Sword Zero. This is essentially the sibling weapon to the original Double Moon Sword, and it feels very similar overall. Even though the combos differ slightly, it still carries over most of the strength of its counterpart. The biggest difference here is the strong attack. Instead of the original version, you now throw the sword like a boomerang, at least on the grounded version. I do like the added range this gives you, but it's not quite as strong or spammable as the original Moon Sword's heavy attack. Aside from that, it's very similar, so overall still a very solid weapon. Next up, we have the scientific ninja tool Bladed Machine. This is basically like a slower but much harder hitting version of Samehada. I'd actually consider it a pretty big upgrade. A lot of the attacks now hit twice, which lets you deal significantly more damage. On top of that, you get more combo options and many of them knock the enemy up, which is always useful. Even something like the basic light attack combos feels really strong on this weapon. So yeah, if you're somebody who already enjoys the Samahara, this is definitely a weapon you're going to like. Continuing on, we have the Hidan Scythe. This is the weapon that comes with the Hidan DLC, and overall it's actually really strong, especially for an S rarity weapon. The strong attack is great, it pulls the enemy towards you and then kicks them away, dealing solid damage. On top of that, the light to heavy combos are really good, especially the grounded one, which can easily hit multiple enemies. There are just a couple of issues holding it back slightly. First, the strong attack locks you into an uncancelable animation. If you miss, that can be pretty punishing, although the super armor does help out a bit. Second, one of the light attack kicks the enemy away in a way that's clearly meant to continue the combo. But a lot of the time it sends them too far away, making it impossible to follow up. It feels inconsistent, sometimes it works perfectly and other times it just completely breaks the combo. Even with those flaws though, it is still a great weapon and really fun to use. And also visually, everything about it just looks fantastic. Continuing down the list, we have the Double Moon Sword. This was one of the original go-to defense weapons before the SS Plus gear really took over. And honestly, it's still an amazing weapon. Unlike a lot of defense weapons, it doesn't feel heavy or clunky at all. It's actually quite fast, and more importantly, it has really good tracking, which makes it easy to stay on your opponent during combos. The strong attack is also very solid. You throw a blade in a spiral motion, which can be especially useful in modes like base battle. On top of that, this is one of those weapons that makes extending your combos very easy. A lot of its strings knock or bounce the enemy, and the light attack combo is a perfect example of that, as it naturally sets up follow-ups. So yeah, it's just a great all-around weapon. It might not be as broken as some of the SS Plus options, but it's still very viable. Next up, we have the Frost Hawk. This is just a really solid weapon overall that lets you use some really cool ice-based attacks. It doesn't have a huge variety of combos, but everything it does have is really good. Whether it's the ice stun mid combo or the wide ice spread attack, it all feels just very impactful. The tracking is also good, which helps the weapon feel more consistent and reliable in fights. Overall, just a very solid and satisfying weapon to use. Moving on, we have the Flaming Howl. This is essentially the sibling weapon to the Frosthawk, and I feel very similarly about it. It's just a really solid, well-rounded weapon. Personally, I do prefer the strong attack on this one a bit more, especially the grounded version where you create a flame tornado. There's also a light to heavy combo that ends with a really satisfying slam that causes an explosion on impact, which looks great and feels super nice. So yeah, very similar to the Frosthawk, just a strong, reliable weapon overall. Continuing on, we have the Adamantine Enra. This is another super solid weapon choice across the board. All of its combos feel really smooth. The standard light attack combo bounces the enemy nicely off the ground, letting you continue the combo, and that applies for both the ground and aerial versions. The strong attacks are also very good. The grounded version in particular works great in tight situations thanks to its reach and the super armor it provides. Overall, the weapon has a really nice flow, great tracking, and fun combo options. And very importantly, it's an S rarity weapon that comes with the Konohamaru DLC, which means if you don't have access to the higher tier weapons, it's a really great option. Next up, we have our first SS Plus weapon on the list, Sandsphere Shukaku. While I don't think it's one of the strongest SS Plus weapons, it's still undeniably a great option in the defense class. The strong attack is very solid, with great reach, and it even gives you a ranged option when used in the air. The combos are visually also amazing, honestly some of the best looking in the entire game. And while they may not be as overpowered as other SS Plus weapons, they're still very fun to use. So yeah, maybe not the most meta defining weapon in the class, but still a very strong and an enjoyable one. Continuing down the list, we have the Swirling Storm. This is the newest weapon added to the defense class at the time of making this video, and honestly, it's just incredibly solid and reliable. It has amazing tracking both on the charge attack and within its combos, and the reach is amazing, making it very easy to catch enemies you're not even directly targeting. On top of that, it doesn't really have any major weaknesses. It actually reminds me a lot of weapons like Sunbeam or Violet Petals for the attack class. It has the same kind of smooth, well-rounded feel, just adapted for defense types. The grounded strong attack isn't anything special, but the first hit of the aerial version has a really strong stun, which is great. Overall, there's honestly not much bad to say about this weapon, it's just really good. Next up is the 7 Ninja Swordsman of the Mist Sword. This weapon is essentially 7 weapons in one, since the combos use all of the iconic blades wielded by the legendary swordsman. A lot of people tend to think this weapon isn't great, but I really disagree. First, it has a lot of combo variety simply because it cycles through different swords, 7 of them. Second, its strong attack is excellent, sending out 3 high-speed water clones that blitz straight toward the enemy and deal solid damage. Finally, when your health drops to around 15%, you automatically activate a Demon Aura effect inspired by Zabuza's Demon Hunter, which gives you super armor and lifesteal. It's not the most broken weapon in the SS Plus category, but it has so many valuable little features that add up. So in my opinion, it's a very strong and very viable pick for this class. Entering the top 3, we have the Puppet. This is one of the newest SS Plus weapons in the defense class, and from here on, the weapons really start entering a completely different league. The unique mechanic here is that by holding the strong attack, you can fully control your puppet. This lets you deal damage from a distance while keeping yourself safe, since there's no real range limit. The puppet does have its own health bar, and if it gets destroyed, you temporarily lose access to it, but only for a few seconds. Enemies can also cancel the mode by attacking your main body. What really makes the puppet mode strong are two things. First, you can fly while using it, and second, once you drop below a certain health threshold, you gain super armor, which is incredibly strong when you're not even risking your own health directly. On top of that, the puppet has great offensive tools, like a really good strong attack and a combo that throws out the poison smoke bomb. What's even better is that the weapon itself is actually still excellent outside of the puppet mode. Unlike some other weapons, you don't actually lose access to your normal strong attack. And that attack is actually really strong on its own. It traps the enemy inside the puppet and then pierces them with spikes. While they are trapped, you can continue attacking them, making it a fantastic combo starter. The rest of the combos are great too, especially the light to heavy string that include a poison smoke bomb, which is very useful. The only real downside is that the basic light combo can feel a bit inconsistent at times, but honestly that's a really minor issue. Overall, this weapon is just incredibly strong. The puppet mode adds a whole extra layer of safety and utility, especially in modes like base or flag battle where you can control multiple areas at once. I won't lie, this weapon is kind of busted. If it wasn't for the next two ones, it could easily take the number 1 spot. At our number 2 spot, we have Madara's SS Plus weapon, the War Fan. Arguably one of the most frustrating weapons to deal with in the whole game. The light attacks are solid, but the real reason it's so strong is the heavy attack. Depending on whether you're on the ground or in the air, it becomes either a massive horizontal swipe or a downward strike. Both of them have huge range, and the aerial version launches you extremely high, making follow-ups very easy. With the super armor on those, it's just really hard to deal with. And since the weapon's strongest options revolve around repeatedly pressing one button, it's incredibly easy to use and incredibly frustrating to fight against. Visually, it's also great, with the Susanoo animation and a small majestic destroyer flame as the combo finisher. So yeah, painful to play against, but undoubtedly powerful. And at the number 1 spot, we have Inventive Destruction. This weapon is essentially two weapons in one. You switch between them using the strong attack. One form is a faster sword and shield style, and the other is a massive greatsword. The reason this is number 1 is actually very simple. When using the big sword, you get super armor on all of your attacks, both fight attacks and charge attacks, and that is just completely broken. You can literally press the strong attack once at the start of the match, switch to the big sword, and you're set for the entire fight. It's a simple advantage, but it's so overwhelmingly strong that it easily puts this weapon at the top of the list for me. And that's all of the weapons. I honestly think the top 3 of this class are just on a whole different level compared to everything else. Like, those 3 weapons give you such a huge advantage, it's honestly a joke. Nevertheless, let me know in the comments what you thought of the ranking and what you do or don't agree with. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Bye!